everybody, hope you enjoyed that. My name is Fabian Dolan. This is how I got good at guitar, and hopefully you can too. Check the link in the description for lessons if you want to be able to learn how to play like I just did in the intro. Anyway, just want to show you here, give you a bit of inspiration and hope about your guitar journey. This is how I used to sound as a beginner. Alright, let's give this a listen. This was me here back as a beginner / intermediate. I had no clue what I was doing and I sounded horrible, right? And then I managed to learn and progress my guitar playing and teach myself new things, and I ended up sounding something like this. Let's give this a listen. Right, so there is hope. You can get better. As long as you keep trying, as long as you keep practicing, there is a way forward. So do not be discouraged with the progress you're making at the moment. There is a way for you to get good. Anyway, what is my job? My job is to help guitarists advance their guitar playing. Here are some nice words from students I've had in the past, some helpful and nice comments that I've received on YouTube. And again, this content is completely run by my lessons on Fiverr. So if you're interested in advancing your guitar playing, please check out the link below in the description. Again, who is this video for, right? This is for educational content, right? This is not entertainment. So if you're looking to be entertained, please go elsewhere. So today's lesson, how to use scales, right? So we're going to cover what is a scale, and then once we learn a scale, how do we make music with it? How do we sound creative? And how do we make original ideas with scales, right? Because I think as guitarists we're told we have to practice scales and stuff like that, and we do that all the time, but it's really boring and it seems like we don't really get much from it. So we're going to go over how to fix that problem today in this video. So we first need to start off with covering what is a scale, right? So a scale is just a way to divide a series of notes until we reach the starting note up an octave, right? So if I have our A minor pentatonic scale, it's a way of dividing notes until we reach the same note again up an octave, right? So it sounds something like this. These two here, they're the same notes, it's just one is a higher pitch. And again, a scale is the way that we divide and group them into distances until we reach them up an octave, right? You can create any scale you want, right? You can have as many notes in there as you want, as the guitar will allow. There's 12 notes, I guess, so you could create a 12-note scale where you go. There we go, that's the chromatic scale. Or if you wanted to make a 2-note scale where you go, and then so on and so on and so on, right? So a scale is just a way of dividing notes until we reach the same starting point up an octave, right? So now that we've got that covered, we need to talk about how scales work and how we learn them, right? When we learn them, we practice them stepwise. Stepwise is just the distance between one note in the scale to the next. So again, if I go back to our A minor pentatonic, we start here on the 5th fret of the E string. The next step of the scale is here, right? So that's one step. And then the next step from there is, that's another step, right? And then from so on, that's one more step, another step. You get the idea, right? When we're practicing our scales, we practice them stepwise. Right, this is useful for training our muscle memory, but it does not at all translate into creativity, right? This is not music. You're going to struggle to create good sounding music or a good song with a melody like that. It's very boring and predictable, right? So what do we have to do to turn these scales into music? So let's go over this point here quickly, right? Music is much like chess. You can only really play chess once you learn how the pieces move. When you learn how music works, you can use your own creativity to move notes around just like pieces of a chessboard. So just like I showed you earlier, once you learn how notes work, you can create your own scales if you please, right? So you could go like, again, like I did earlier, right? You could create your own scale with just 2 notes, or like a scale with 3 notes, where it's like, again, and then if you could keep adding more notes in, again, you can add your own names to these scales. You can create them yourself, be individual with them, right? Let's add some more notes in. Let's make it a 4-note scale, right? Right? So that would be an example of me just creating my own scale, right? Different cultures use different scales, right? So in other places in the world, they'll use scales with different degrees and different series of notes that gives them their own kind of different flavour. So like the Middle East has their own kind of scales, Africa uses their own kind of scales. It's inherently cultural, the scales that are chosen, right? In the West, we mainly tend to use the major scale, the minor scale, and the pentatonic scales, right? Those are the most common ones you're going to hear. So those are probably the most common ones that you should be practicing in order to learn and play other people's songs. And another interesting point here, right? The less notes there are on a scale, the less possibilities there are for complexity. So if we have a scale, that means that we can harmonize and add notes together to create chords and like triads and such, right? The less notes there are in a scale, that means the less chords and triads you can make within that scale. So that's why the pentatonic scale is quite a useful scale to learn at the start, because there are only 5 notes, hence the word penta, right? Penta, 5 notes, pentatonic scale. That means there is less complexity within that scale, but it still sounds good, right? It's still a nice sounding scale, right? So we've gone over what a scale is. Now, once we learn a scale, how do we make music from it? So playing the scale up and down is not music yet, like we went over earlier, right? The scale there is there to inform you of what you could potentially play. We need to use our own creative expression to turn the scale into music. Usually, this is actually a lot more simple than you might think, right? If you're like stuck, if I asked you right now, make a melody with the pentatonic scale, I'm hoping most of you can do that, but like again, it's not a problem if you can't. But if you're kind of flustered, like I don't really know what to do, try combining a technique you already know with a scale shape, right? So for example, if you know how to do hammer-ons and pull-offs, try doing that, like. Again, this is just me literally just spitballing off the top of my head, but again, I'm just combining techniques that I know. So I know hammer-ons and I know their scale shape in A minor. So if I add a bit of rhythm and some hammer-ons, right, again, we're starting to make a bit more music there. It's sounding more musical rather than just going. And again, this works for pull-offs as well. Again, just spitballing completely, right? But what you want to be thinking about doing is combining a technique that you're already used to and you already know how to do with a scale shape. Now let's go over some other ideas that we can use to make scales more interesting. This is one that I like to do a lot, right? And this works for any scale. So if you have the major scale or the pentatonic scale, skipping steps are going to work, right? So we went over earlier what a step was, right? Step is just the next part, the next note in the sequence of the scale, right? So we got, that's one step. What if we went up the scale and we just skipped steps? Again, we got that with the pentatonic one, but if we combine skipping steps and then using steps as well, so we go. Right, again, we're already getting some more musical sounds. Again, skip steps. Again, that's just an idea, right? You don't want to always skip steps, but like, just for a couple notes, try skipping. So instead of going from here to here, go from here to here. Again, you can alternate between them. Again, that's an idea that you can use. Alright, this is another one I like to do here. Play in groups or runs. So what do I mean by that? Right, so we go up the scale in steps, but then we backtrack and we divide them into groupings of like 3, 4, 5, 6, something like that. So what does that sound like? So something like that. So once we go up 4 steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, we go back to the second degree, and then back. Right, you can make cool kind of licks like that. And again, if you know how to do hammer-ons and pull-offs, this is going to make it easier. And you get stuff like that, right? And again, another thing that we can do, combine notes into double stops or triads. So, if we start here again from the root, combine a note underneath it, and then combine notes together in the shape. And then again, like do hammer-ons and pull-offs up and down the scale. Okay, right? I was doing some of this here as well. They're like introducing some groups and runs right there. So right, that kind of stuff. Again, I'm just spitballing all of this stuff here. It's not like I'm creating a musical groundbreaking masterpiece, but you get the idea. You want to be creative with this kind of stuff, right? And this is something else that I like to do when I'm practicing. This is a cool technique, is when you go down one scale shape and then back into the next scale shape. So with our pentatonic scale, if we know how to play this, this is our first shape, right? We also have the next shape. So try doing this. Again, this is not so musical at the moment, but when we incorporate this into our practice, where we go like, it makes it easier for us to run between both of those shapes. And that way the melody can keep going higher and we can keep rising it. Okay? So we do like stuff like this. And that's going to be quite useful for your improvisation when you're learning how to play solos. Or again, if you're just creating melodies where you just want to keep rising the pitch and making things sound more cool and more musical. So, we've gone over what a scale is, and then we've gone over some tricks that we can use to make music out of a scale and how to make it sound more interesting rather than just doing the basic boring stuff of running up and down a scale shape. This has been how I got good at guitar. Well done for watching it to the end. Again, link in the description for lessons. I offer a one-on-one coaching service. If you're interested, check the link. Thank you for making it to the end. This channel is 100% independent. It's supported by the fans and a Fiverr account. subscribe for more high quality guides, and follow me on Insta if you're interested. Thank you very much for watching.